Creature Commandos is the first DCU project, part of James Gunn's new DCU, taking over from, or I guess I should say for the DC, whatever that was called, the ones with Henry Cavill in them, because they weren't really working. I'm sure you already know, so I'm not going to get into all that, but they are rebooting all that, and James Gunn, he's carrying stuff over, so like Peacemaker's coming back, certain characters are coming back, like for example Amanda Waller's in this show, and this show is basically Suicide Squad 2.0. So the Creature Commandos are kind of like a precursor for the Suicide Squad. They're like monsters, pretty much generally speaking. So like you won't have like a character like Deadshot on the team. It'll be somebody like, in this case, like they have Weasel on the team. They have Nina, who's like a fish girl. They have Dr. Phosphorus, people like that, right? And so this show, kind of on the fence about. Originally, I was having like a really high rating for this show because, generally speaking, as far as a show goes, it's really good. But for a first project for a new cinematic universe, it's odd to me that they didn't start with Superman, considering that comes out this July. Now, starting from the beginning of this show, you have Rick Flag Sr., played by Frank Grillo, and he does a really good job. He's getting his team together, that's pretty much already together at the beginning because they're already like all in prison there in Argus, led by Amanda Waller. And at this team, like I've already named off most of the people already, but like I said, you have Weasel, you have Dr. Phosphorus, fish girl named Nina, you have Mrs. Frankenstein, and G.I. Robot. I believe that's all the teammates that are on there, and like I said, just counting Rick Flag Sr. as well. And so everybody, what I really loved about the show was that everybody had their own kind of origin story that they tell in every single episode. So for example, like G.I. Robot, right? He is like a Nazi killing robot machine, kind of like Captain America, like if he was like a robot. And his origin you explore in one of the episodes, kind of like Weasel. We learned that he killed 27 children in the Suicide Squad by James Gunn a couple years ago, and you learn about his origin story, and light spoilers, turns out he didn't kill 27 children. And it's really cool that it explored a lot of this stuff, and that's actually how David Harbour's Frankenstein character gets into play in this show, because when you get into the backstory of Mrs. Frankenstein, you get a whole lot of this kind of interplay. And for me, that's where the show kind of fell flat for me, because there's a lot of characters that are doing things but aren't doing things. Like, for example, we get the character of Cersei setting up Themyscira, potentially setting up Wonder Woman in the near future, maybe like a movie. I don't know what James Gunn's plans are, whatever. But she's kind of like the main villain up until like episode 3 or 4 or something like that. But the show is 7 episodes, and we don't get any more of her character. And that's not spoilers. Like, she's not dead or anything. It's almost like her storyline ends to set up somebody else as a villain, and the person they set up as the villain is just like the weakest kind of thing that they could do in the show. Is very poor. And it's mainly because Cersei was really good at being a villain, really cool, exploring some of this magic, like I said, Themyscira, stuff like that. And they don't get into anything else like that because they're kind of just like, oh no, we actually have a different villain. And I think some of the character origin stories, even though I loved all of them, I think the last episode going into a character origin story of Nina, I don't think that was what they should have done. I don't know if you could have made a different episode or something like that, but I feel like you spent half the episode learning about her just for everything else to seem kind of rushed, because really and truly the finale itself is only like about 10 minutes. The rest of the episode is her origin story, and that's how it kind of has been. But for example, Rick Flag Sr., he goes on like a side quest type of adventure with Frankenstein, and when they go do that, at that point in time, Rick Flag Sr. is not even with the team anymore. Homeboy's not even in the finale. And Frankenstein and all that, and like I just feel like there's so many characters that just are in the show, and I get it's the creature commandos, but like you have characters that are in like the first like 4 episodes that just like aren't in anymore, and it's just really weird. And I'm not talking about deaths or whatever. Like if the character's dead, okay, I get you, but like it's just really weird that like I just feel like they kind of get forgotten. And there are reasons for our Rick Flag Singer, why he's not in some of the other episodes, but it just felt really weird to me because the finale is kind of like that Disney Plus stuff where it just feels really rushed. Because like I said, for most of that, I feel like for a good 70% of that episode, you are getting a setup for another character origin story. And so I feel like what they resolve really doesn't line up for me. And like I said, I don't want to do any spoilers because I know the show just ended, but for example, when they revealed the main villain's motivations and kind of whatever, part of me was just kind of sitting there and going, okay, well, how does this person know these people in Gotham? How does this person have, like, why are they doing what they're doing? Like, they don't explain any of this. They just kind of go, well, yeah, we think you did it, okay. And, like, it's really weird. And it's just throwing me off because as much as I love this show, like I said, like the animation's really good. The writing itself is good. Like the origin stories for the characters are really good. And the setup and everything else is really good. It's just, I feel like we keep getting these James Gunn tropes where, you know, I'm not saying this is the only thing he can kind of write, but like we've already gotten this with Suicide Squad. We've already gotten this with kind of Guardians in a way. It's a team. And, you know, I just feel like we keep doing this team stuff. And it was just weird that this is the second thing that was DCU. I feel like with us getting Supergirl next year and us getting Superman this year, I feel like that should have been first and second. And then maybe this show could have came out tail end of next year or something like that. And maybe tweak the finale. Like you have episodes where, like for example, there's one episode where these characters are in a brothel. And you have this origin story playing in the background. It's really good. But the brothel setting itself was more just kind of like there. It's like a lot of things that happen I feel like could have just been like really quick, but no, we're setting up things, we're setting up the scene, and it's just, it's not weird, it's fine, it's just that I feel like the show comes to a halt like weirdly in episode 5, I would say. It's not the whole season, but it's like the last 3 episodes kind of come to a halt. And for that, I give the show a 7.5 out of 10. And if you're wondering why it's so high, it's because everything else is really good. Like I said, for me, the character origin stories push the show forward. Weasel's origin almost made me cry. G.I. Robot's origin was hilarious. Nina's origin was sad. Like, these origins are so good, and they could have been shows on their own. And like I said, with that being most of the runtime, I'm grading it based on a lot of that. It's just that for everything else, the main story itself that was overarching these origins was kind of falling flat. But in between scenes, you had really good stuff. Like, for example, even though I didn't love certain parts of the finale, half of it I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the first few episodes. I thought they were like solid, like 8, 9, 10 out of 10. Especially the second episode, I really enjoyed a whole lot. But like I said, you just always have that in the background. Like, you kind of got that little thing going in the back of your head where you're like, why is David Harbour's Frankenstein here again? It's like, I know why he's here. But then it's like a lot of, he's just kind of comic relief. And it's like, it's funny at first, but then it's kind of like, what are you doing here? Anybody else could have played you. You're really not doing anything. But yeah, there's an end credit scene. I would say suggest and stay for that. I'm going to give you watch all 7 episodes. But I am curious for a season 2 of this show, because I feel like James Gunn, that's the one thing I really do like about him. He listens to a lot of feedback. So I feel like while this season is 7.5, season 2 will at least be at 8.5, maybe 9. So hopefully these changes will come into play. But it looks, based on the look of things, we'll be getting new Creature Commandos members. And so with that being the case, new origin stories. So I am looking forward to that. And if you like this review, please like and subscribe for more. And with that, I will catch you guys on the next one.
Cheers to the Tin Man!